You're gonna die soon. I'm aiming for first degree, not second. When I say it, I mean it. That's not a line from a movie. It was a real message, a cold-blooded death sentence Cornacia Butler received from the very person she once called her wife. And just days later, that deadly promise became reality, right in front of their 4-year-old son. Cornacia Butler, 31 years old, mother of 4, and owner of a tax preparation and beauty service in Atlanta, Georgia, once dreamed of a peaceful home. But her 6-year relationship with Shakula Perkins turned that dream into a battlefield of jealousy, control, and violence. A case filled with warnings, evidence, and protective orders, yet it still ended in bloodshed. This isn't just a story about domestic violence. It's a direct challenge to the justice system and to the personal choices we make when we know the danger, but still allow it to come knocking again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to join us as we uncover more chilling, tragic, true crime cases. And drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from. If you saw Cornacia Butler on a sunny day in Atlanta, you'd hardly imagine she had lived through a story stained in blood. At 31, Cornacia seemed like the picture of strength, a mother of 4, with 3 daughters and a young son, running her own tax preparation business while also working in beauty services. Friends called her Black Barbie, not just for her perfectly styled hair and bold fashion sense, but for her bright pink Mercedes, a symbol of the confidence and personality she carried everywhere she went. Cornacia was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, in an environment that was far from peaceful. That past became her driving force, pushing her to work relentlessly so she could give her children a better life than I ever had, a phrase she often shared on Facebook. The photos she posted, her kids dressed neatly, smiling brightly, made it easy to believe she had found happiness. But behind those polished photos, Cornacia's life was bound to a turbulent relationship. Shakula Perkins. Shakula was 6 years younger than Cornacia, 25 years old, a former U.S. Army service member who had deployed twice to Iraq. After leaving the military, she settled in Atlanta, claiming to own a barbershop, and even secured a government-approved PPP loan of over $20,000. She carried herself with a tough demeanor, the kind of presence shaped by years in a strict, disciplined environment. The two met while Cornacia was still living in Memphis. At first, the relationship felt like a breath of fresh air. 2 strong-willed women, both driven by the desire to rise above and leave their pasts behind, ready to start over in a new city. Atlanta, with its opportunities and vibrant pace, became the place where they gambled on building a future together. On social media, Cornacia and Shakula appeared to be the perfect couple, matching outfits, sweet captions, weekend getaways. But beneath that romantic facade were simmering tensions. Both women were strong-willed, but in this case, strength didn't complement strength. It collided. For Shakula, love meant absolute possession. For Cornacia, even with a partner by her side, she wanted to keep her independence to maintain her wide social circle. That difference became the seed of jealousy and control, slowly turning their love into a battlefield. It was the story of 2 people who once believed they had found the one in a new city, but who had unknowingly bound themselves to a relationship where love and danger no longer had a clear line between them. By the time their relationship entered its 3rd year, the cracks had begun to show. To outsiders, they were still the dream couple, but to those close enough to see, the story was very different. Shakula grew jealous of everything, not just of men, whether they were Cornacia's exes or the fathers of her children, but even of women she felt were looking at Cornacia for too long. It became an obsession. Friends recalled that if Shakula saw even one unfamiliar message on Cornacia's phone, she would explode, interrogating her for hours. That jealousy didn't stop at words, it quickly turned into controlling behavior. Shakula would make random video calls just to see where Cornacia was, who she was with, and would even demand she pan the camera around the room, like an inspection. It wasn't long before conflicts began erupting even when they were together. Cornatia was outgoing, the kind of person who loved meeting friends, while Shakula wanted her to stay home, more avoiding interaction with strangers. This difference quickly escalated into major arguments, harsh words thrown, resentful tones taking over. But the most frightening part was this. The warning signs had begun to appear in plain sight. Shakula began making threats. "If I lose you, I'll make sure you can't belong to anyone else." Her social media posts turned cryptic, filled with talk of betrayal and payback. Cornatia's family noticed she was growing quieter whenever the relationship came up, as if she were hiding a heavy burden. Once, a friend recalled asking Cornatia directly if she was okay. She gave a faint smile and replied, "I'm fine. It's just that my love is a little different." But that smile couldn't hide the worry in her eyes. The clearest early warning came when Shakula began showing up uninvited at places where Cornatia happened to be, even though Cornatia had never shared her location. It was a sign that Shakula was tracking her every move. A red flag of danger that, tragically, went unheeded. All of it, the threats, the control, the victim's unease, were glaring red flags. But at the time, both Cornatia and those around her brushed them off as just normal things in a relationship. The red flags were no longer just a metaphor. They turned into bold, reckless actions impossible to mistake for love. September 2021. Cornatia was driving down a quiet road when headlights flared in her rearview mirror. A car sped up, swerving close to her left, then her right. A hard hit sent her vehicle lurching. In the split second, she recognized the license plate. Cornatia froze. It was Shakula. She had deliberately tried to force Cornatia off the road. The car was damaged on both sides, but Cornatia was lucky enough to keep control of the wheel. Right after, she texted a friend. "She just tried to run me off the road." The friend replied, "What do you mean?" Cornatia answered, "She hit both sides. Wanted me to go off the road." Less than a week later, the threat became even bolder. Shakula showed up at Cornatia's doorstep unannounced, uninvited. When Cornatia didn't open the door, she kicked it so hard she broke the frame. The reason? Shakula wanted to check if someone else was inside. But it was the night of the 25th of September, 2021, that pushed everything to the most dangerous edge. Around midnight, an orange glow crept through the bedroom window. When Cornatia looked outside, her heart dropped. Her bright pink Mercedes and her Jeep were engulfed in flames right in the driveway. The fire spread to the porch, thick black smoke curling into the air. Neighbors called the fire department, and their security cameras captured Shakula lurking around the property just moments before the blaze erupted. Police arrested Shakula shortly after, charging her with 4 serious offenses, including first-degree arson. Everyone thought this would be the end, that this time she'd be locked up long enough for Cornatia to finally be safe. But the court set bail at just $70,000. 8 days later, Shakula walked out, free. In an effort to protect herself and her children, Cornatia filed for an emergency protective order. The court granted it, requiring Shakula to stay at least 200 yards away and forbidding any direct or indirect contact. But in reality, that order was nothing more than a thin sheet of paper in the wind. Because just a few months later, people saw them together again. After the arson, everyone assumed Cornatia would leave Shakula for good. But contrary to expectations, just a few months later, photos of them together surfaced again. On Valentine's Day 2022, Shakula posted a picture of the two of them with the caption, "6 years of toxic love, but I wouldn't do it with anyone else but you." From the outside, it looked like they had made up. But beneath the surface, the storm was still brewing. And this time, it wouldn't stop. In mid-2022, Cornatia made a major decision. She bought a new home for herself and her 4 children. She snapped a photo of the house and posted it on Facebook with the caption, "My kids have been to hell and back with me. Now it's time to give them a life I never had." It was a message of a fresh start. But to Shakula, it was the end. And a betrayal she could never forgive. The messages began pouring in, no more hints, no more cryptic words. "You're gonna die soon, keep talking. I've made up my mind. I'm aiming for first degree, not second. When I say it, I mean it. On the 16th of November, 2022, Shakula turned those threats into reality. Security cameras captured it. A car slowly pulled up in front of Cornatia's new home. Shakula stepped out, walked to the door, then returned to the car. She opened the trunk, pulled out a gun, concealed it in her left hand, and walked back toward the house. Inside, Cornatia was with her mother, paralyzed from a stroke, and her 4-year-old son. No one had time to react. A single gunshot rang out, echoing off the freshly painted walls. The bullet tore straight into Cornatia's head. Her 4-year-old stood frozen, watching his mother collapse to the floor. Her elderly mother sat helpless in her chair, able to do nothing but witness it all. Neighbors heard the gunshot, just one, and then absolute silence. Seconds later, Shakula walked out, got into her car, and drove away, leaving the house in shock. A few hours later, when Cornatia's 3 daughters returned from school, they saw police cars and yellow tape blocking the door. And inside, their mother was gone. When the gunfire faded, the silence that followed felt endless. Neighbors used to seeing Cornatia pulling her bright pink Mercedes in and out of the driveway now stood frozen, watching as police cars swarmed the scene. Fulton County Police stepped into the new house, moving through a living room, still carrying the scent of fresh paint mixed with gunpowder. On the floor, Cornatia lay motionless, blood pooling beneath her head. Her 4-year-old son sat curled in a corner, eyes wide and empty. Across the room, Cornatia's mother trembled, unable to move, repeating over and over, She shot my daughter." Paramedics confirmed that Cornatia was dead at the scene. Police immediately sealed off the area, collecting surveillance footage from neighbors and from the home's own security system. Information about the license plate and the shooter's description was quickly relayed over the radio. In less than an hour, Shakula Perkins was found just a few blocks from the scene. She still had the gun, the very weapon that had taken Cornatia's life, on the seat beside her. When she was arrested, Shakula offered no resistance and showed no signs of panic. According to the officers, she maintained an almost calm demeanor, as if everything had been part of her plan all along. The news spread quickly. Friends, neighbors, and especially Cornatia's 3 daughters, when relatives brought them home, still couldn't comprehend that the new house their mother had promised would be a safe haven had now become the place where she lost her life. On social media, smiling photos of Cornatia with her children began to circulate again, accompanied by heart-wrenching captions. Some voiced outrage at the justice system for allowing Shakula to be released on bail so easily. Others grieved over the fact that Cornatia had never truly broken free from this deadly relationship. But regardless of who was right or wrong, one reality remained unchangeable. A mother was dead, and 4 children had lost the only anchor in their lives. The investigation moved quickly. The evidence against Shakula Perkins was almost impossible to dispute. Cornatia's phone was seized, and inside was a trove of damning proof. A series of cold, calculated death threats, each with specific dates, each a chilling promise. This wasn't a moment of rage. It wasn't a split-second lapse in judgment. It was a deliberate plan announced in advance and carried out with precision down to the last detail. Security footage from a neighbor's house made it unmistakably clear. Shakula arrived, returned to her car, retrieved a gun, and then walked into the house. When she emerged, the weapon was still in her left hand. Every frame matched the witness statements and the physical evidence at the crime scene perfectly. The prosecutor charged Shakula with first-degree murder, possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime, cruelty to children for committing the act in front of the victim's 4-year-old son. What's most striking is that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis had already urged the court to deny Shakula bail back in 2021 when she was arrested for arson. But at the time, the judge set bail at just $70,000, a decision that ultimately left the door open for the tragedy that unfolded. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Shakula chose to plead guilty in exchange for avoiding a public trial. The plea deal gave her a life sentence with the possibility of parole. All her previous charges, arson, assault, and threats, were dropped as part of the agreement. The sentence was handed down, but for Cornatia's family, it brought no real comfort. The 4 children, 3 daughters and a young son, are now being raised by relatives. They carry with them the searing memory of the day their mother was murdered in their new home, a memory no court ruling can ever erase. Debate continued to rage after the case. One side argued that the justice system had failed by allowing a dangerous, violent offender to walk free on bail so easily. The other insisted that Cornatia bore some responsibility for not cutting off all contact and allowing Shakula back into her life. But no matter which angle you take, the outcome remains the same. A life lost and a family shattered forever.
Me like all the time, y'all. So, it's really, but I don't think I'll never be okay, you know, because this is so devastating to me. And I would never what happened there? Either none of my siblings.
4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy now grow up without their mother's guiding hand. The new home, once called a safe new beginning by Cornatia, has become a prison for horrifying memories. The gunshot, the sound of their mother collapsing, and the cold, suffocating silence that followed. Her family is broken. Her elderly mother, already weakened by a stroke, now lives with the torment of knowing she was right there yet powerless to protect her daughter. Friends, neighbors, and the wider community are left to bear witness to a tragedy that, had the warnings been heeded, might never have happened.
Get ready. Minions will be deployed in 5 seconds.
I got a wife.
What? And I got a woman and a hoe and something else.
And I'm all over.
Yay! I've been wondering
What to do? Yeah! I got 2 niggas and I don't know. Okay.
Get ready. Minions will be deployed in 5 seconds. Chào mừng đến bình nguyên vô tận. Stop enemies from gaining the might buff.
If you ratchet and you know it, and you really wanna throw it. If you ratchet and you know it, shake that ass.
Shake that ass, bitch, and let me see what you got. Just shake that.
Case of Cornatia Butler leaves behind 3 painful truths. Control is never love. When love turns into chains, it ceases to be love. Social media is an illusion. Smiling photos don't reveal the truth behind closed doors. Paper can't stop a bullet. Restraining orders and legal filings mean nothing if the victim still lets the abuser back in. A toxic relationship doesn't change just because you hope it will. It changes when you walk away decisively or when you pay with everything, including your life. If you, or someone you know, are trapped in a cycle of jealousy, threats, and violence, find a way to leave today. Don't wait until the warnings turn into gunshots and the silence turns into a funeral. Because real love never ends with a life sentence and 4 children left without their mother.